What is the most terrifying thing you've ever experienced while home alone? One night I was watching The Conjuring at home with my little sister when we heard someone putting a key into our front door and opening it. We were sitting in the living room next to a sliding door that was very close to the front door, so we both heard it very clearly. Now this didn't alarm us since we knew our dad had recently gone out to get some stuff, so we just assumed he had returned. "Dad, you're back already?" I casually asked. There was no response. "Dad?" I asked again, thinking that he had not heard me the first time. Again, silence. At this point I get the feeling that something isn't quite right, and I could tell by the look on my sister's face that she was quite nervous as well. I'll note that up to this point she had spent the evening rolling her eyes at horror movie cliches, and she very rarely gets scared. We looked at each other for a moment, wondering what we should do before we started hearing a few more scattering sounds from right outside the sliding door. I was frozen in fear by this stage. I tried one more time in a louder, but shakier voice. "Dad, is that you? Please respond, repeated in my head. But the silence continued. Now at this point I'm freaking out and I literally jumped off the couch. My sister also abruptly gets up and starts rapidly walking towards the other end of the room, which leads to the kitchen area. She later revealed to me that she was planning on grabbing a knife. She had this horrified look on her face that I hadn't seen before. We looked at each other in nervous silence. I didn't really know what to do and I didn't want to make any further sounds. I finally decided to walk up to the sliding door and began opening it as slowly as possible, peering into the darkness. I know, I literally became the idiot who investigates the unknown, creepy noise without anything to protect myself with. When the door was finally open wide enough, I poked my head out and scanned the corridor, preparing for the worst. To my surprise, there was no one there. But what was more strange was that the front door was still completely shut. We never heard the door close. My sister and I were obviously both extremely relieved, as we were almost certain that there was an intruder in the house. After this, I immediately went to go ask my mum, who was situated in her bedroom at the other end of our house, if it was her or whether she had noticed anything. She told me that she thought my dad had come home, as well as she also heard someone opening the front door. Around half an hour later, which felt like an eternity at the time as we still quite shaken from the incident, my dad finally arrived home and confirmed that he had not come home earlier. To this day my sister and I still have no idea what happened that night. One day while I was working afternoons a couple years back, I woke up at around 10 a.m. and started to watch American Dad before getting up. Next thing you know, I hear my back door open. A normal thing in our home since we only use the back door. But no one was supposed to be home yet. I assumed it was my mom and didn't think anything of it. Then I heard footsteps coming up the stairs as my bedroom was on the second floor. I call out to my mom and get no response. Then my door cracks open and a head pops in. It's a 30-ish-year-old man with a blonde beard and a big mane of greasy hair who looks shocked to see me. At the time I was about 260 pounds 6'3" and 20 years old. I was also sitting in only my boxers. Before I was able to realize what was happening, he asked, "Is this the blank residence?" To which I reply, "No." He makes a swift exit, and before I can recollect my thoughts, he's not even in my driveway. Talked to a family friend who is a veteran police officer. Turns out a man has been pulling this kind of stunt to rob people in nearby towns. I was home for the weekend from uni, but my parents and siblings were away, so was home alone. Our house is quite secluded, with a church and graveyard next door and closest neighbors up the street but quite a bit away. I had all the doors locked and was settling down to watch a movie when the doorbell starts to ring, so I go to answer it. No one there. Then the back doorbell rings. No one there again. This keeps happening over and over, and it is pitch black outside. Then whoever it was began banging on windows and yelling. At this point I'm freaking out, so I begin to call the police and yell at the people outside that I've called them, when it turns out it was a couple of fellas from uni playing a prank on me. I was terrified and reduced to tears at this point, but they thought it was hilarious. They did a few more things like that to me over the 2 to 3 years I was at uni with them, and I always thought they were my friends. I'm older and wiser now to know that they were just cunts. A few years ago I was home alone in my basement playing video games when I hear the door that connects my kitchen to the garage creak open and slam shut, but I never heard the actual mechanical garage door open. Then I heard heavy footsteps of someone wearing boots walk the length of my kitchen directly above me. I originally thought, oh, my brother must have forgotten something, as he had left about 5 minutes before that for work, so I was about to yell up to him to make fun of him, but something in the back of my mind was telling me, hold on, something's not right here. So I muted my TV to both hear better and to stay quiet. Then I heard the footsteps turn around and walk back to the door, and again I hear it creak open and slam shut. But again I never heard the actual mechanical garage door open or close. So I slowly walk upstairs thinking maybe my brother just forgot to close the garage door. I slowly open the door to my garage and see that the garage door has been closed the entire time. The only two explanations I can come up with are either something paranormal happened, or someone broke into my house, walked through my kitchen and left without taking anything, while also not letting me hear them open my garage door. In my opinion, both are equally terrifying to me. I was babysitting a kid who had a video monitor and was told that she wouldn't wake up while the parents were out, and if she did, to call them right away. I was watching TV with the monitor set off to the side to keep an eye on her, and right around 11, the camera's view shifted a few inches. It then began to slightly jiggle like someone was messing with it. I was squinting at it trying to decide what I was actually seeing, and I kid you not, the whole screen burst to static for a few seconds, and the kid started wailing. She stood up and was screaming in her crib just like one of the kids from The Sims. When she didn't fall back asleep after a few minutes, I called mom and she said okay, we're on our way home anyway. We think she has nightmares, sometimes it's fine. Never again. My dad dropped me off at home after bringing my sister to a party, and I walked into a CD blaring super loud on our big old-fashioned speakers. The CD was super hot when I took it out, so it had to have been playing for a long time, but I hadn't heard it going when we left. Turns out my sister had left the CD in, and then while we were gone there was a tiny power outage that made the music start again. Kinda silly, but all that was going through my head was, my favorite band is really gonna be the soundtrack to my death? Nice. This was when I was kid home alone. I usually move around a lot while I sleep. I woke up and hadn't moved. I thought it was cool, it would be super easy to make my bed. I grabbed the bedding, moved it back a little before tossing in place. There was something black sticking out. I tossed the bedding back further. There was a massive black wasp in my bed. An inch from where Iz was sleeping. Buzzing loud, pissed off. I put the bedding back down and proceeded to try and crush it until the buzzing stopped. I grew up on a farm, bugs usually don't bother me. But I checked my bed for weeks after that. I moved into our house a month before my husband did, and I was painting our guest room with the windows wide open. I was busy painting, listening to music, when I realized it had gotten dark outside. I heard the leaves crunching outside but didn't think anything of it because we have a lot of neighbors who walk their dogs. When I went to close the windows, I saw a man standing in my backyard under the tree, maybe 5 feet from our back door, staring up at me. I fell to the floor and realized the back glass door was probably open and nothing but the screen, which he could have easily just walked into my house. Crawled to my phone and called my husband, who then called 911 while rushing home to me. We have a 6 feet tall fence around our yard. This person hopped it to watch me. I couldn't sleep right at night for months. The neighbor's dog being hit by a car, because of the sudden sound of screeching tire, bang, loud yelp/scream, then guy screaming no at the top of his lungs, followed by a chorus of screaming and crying. By the time I got to the window, they were carrying him away. It was really, really sad, and just hearing such a guttural scream of grief from someone in the middle of the night was terrifying in itself and still haunts me. Poor family and dog. Was playing Xbox on my home theater setup. 100-inch projector screen, surround sound, the whole shebang. Mind you, I had the headset on with the game audio, so I turned the volume of the surround sound receiver completely off. Just me, big screen in the dark room. Was thunderstorming outside, me playing some COD, next thing you know everything goes black, power goes out. That's when I went pale. Well, when the power went out and reset, so did the surround sound receiver. Who would have known at reset it would turn it back on full blast white noise. Pitch black room, surround sound white noise on full blast. Full blast. Crazy loud. I couldn't process what was happening. I thought I just got struck by lightning. Not supernatural or anything, just a timely coincidence. Last October I found a Ouija board in Goodwill. Brought it home. A few days later I was home by myself and threw what the heck I mess around with it. So I sat down on the floor, and I'm not even joking when I say this. As soon as I said, "Is there someone here?" the power went out. Like a week later found out wind had knocked down a power line. Not gonna lie, I pissed my pants from fear. My ex-boyfriend showed up in front of my apartment and texted me he was there because he wanted to talk. I told him I wasn't home. Thankfully it was during the day, so I had no lights on, and he called me a liar. He stayed outside for nearly an hour until he gave up and drove off. I stayed in my bathroom the entire time while on the phone with my best friend. Looking back, I should have called the cops, but I was a scared 17-year-old. I took in a friend's cat that she did not want and I thought was being mistreated. My first cat. I was living alone for the first time in a very long time, so I was uneasy for about the first year. One night I heard a horrifying scream and went from sound asleep to standing next to the bed. I have no memory of moving. I jumped up so quickly. It was my cat hollering at another cat walking across the backyard. Scared me to death. When I was 9, I was staying home alone. It was early morning. I had just gotten out of the shower and brushed my teeth. I put on my favorite outfit, set up a little area in the living room with my drink and a snack, and turned on the TV to watch. The phone rang. I went across the house to answer. The voice on the other end was familiar and very comforting. He asked about my day so far and made small talk. After a minute or so he said, "I like your outfit. Is pink your favorite color?" I replied, "Oh, thank you. No, it isn't. What were you planning on watching on TV?" It took me a few seconds to understand what was happening, as I was only 9 and very naive. The voice on the other end of the phone changed. It became deep and raspy and horrific. The voice then proceeded to describe my rape and murder in graphic detail. I went numb, my skin felt as if it were on fire, my heart was racing. I had never been more terrified in my entire life. I slammed the phone down and called my mom at work. I tried to explain what had happened, and I'm sure I wasn't making much sense. She got on to me for answering the phone and told me to go back about my day. I remember trying to explain that he was watching me. He told me what I had been doing, he told me what I was wearing. I mentioned that I was going to call 911 because I needed help. That isn't necessary. I'm not coming home. Just don't answer the phone and go watch TV. I hung up. I was confused. I was scared. I could feel eyes on me. I pulled the curtains closed. I raced around the house and was torn between doing what I felt was right and doing what I had been told by my mother. This whole time the phone was ringing. The second it would stop, it would start again. The sound of the phone ringing would pulse through my tiny body like electricity and practically paralyze me. I was frozen and on fire at the same time. I waited for a pause in ringing and called 911. I'm home by myself and I'm 9 and someone is watching me and he is going to kill me. She tried to keep me calm. She told me she would send help. I remember standing there, listening to this kind voice trying to help me, but I could feel every horror movie scenario playing out behind me. Was he creeping up behind me with a knife? Was he going to shoot me through a window? Was he going to throw a rock through the glass and open the door? I couldn't breathe. I couldn't feel my body, but I was also overly aware of my skin. In a moment of panic I set off the alarm to the house and ran outside. I remember this sense of relief, but also this overwhelming feeling of having a separation in my reality. The house felt small and dark and dangerous and cold. Outside felt open, safe and warm. I could hear lawnmowers, birds chirping. It was a beautiful break from the bone-chilling feeling of the phone. It was like I was watching a movie and I could see myself experiencing both of these environments at the same time. A neighbor was pushing his child in a swing. He was concerned. He let me stand next to him and he protected me. I could hear the sirens. The blaring sound getting louder as they grew closer. It felt like it took an eternity, but the police arrived. He walked over to me and asked me what happened. I did my best to explain, but so many of the words the voice on the phone used were embarrassing. I couldn't bring myself to say such adult words to a police officer. His other words were bone-chilling. I couldn't say those either. I can still hear my young voice repeating he was watching me. He said he's going to kill me. Not long after, my mom's car pulled into the driveway. She, for some reason, decided to come home. She didn't look for me or come speak to me. She calmly got out and walked over the police officer. I was standing in the doorway from the house to the garage, facing the driveway. I could see my mom, the police officer. I was watching, trying to understand, trying to figure out what was happening. And then I saw it. Her laughter. She was laughing. My face was swollen from tears. My heart was still racing. My skin was on fire. And my mom was laughing? I slowly crept closer and overheard, "I'm so sorry about this. She just got scared being home alone and overreacted. What is happening? What did I do wrong? Did I imagine this? Was this a dream? Should I not have called 911? Did I overreact?" My memory of what happened after that is hazy. I remember refusing to stay home alone, the sound of the phone ringing rippling through my body. It wasn't something I liked discussing. I refused to repeat what had been said to me by the voice on the phone. My mom decided she knew who did it. She didn't even know the details. There was no investigation. No one was questioned. She told me it was a boy my age who lived across the street. I knew it was impossible. And no matter how much I protested, I was always told it was him. Many years later, after I was an adult with children, we were at Christmas. Everyone was in the living room and I had gone into a back bedroom to change a diaper. As I was walking out of the room and back into the living room, I could hear my mom laughing, her voice as if she had been telling a joke. The faces of everyone in the room told a different story. Discomfort, anguish, shock, fear. Yet, she was still laughing. It felt as if I was walking in slow motion. One of my older children stopped me from entering the living room and sort of pushed me back into the room I had just come out of. She just told the story of you being home alone and the man threatening to kill you. She told it like it was a joke. Like a funny story from your childhood. I never learned who it had really been. I deal with my fear of ringing phones and phone conversations on a daily basis. TL, Doctor, while staying home alone as a child, someone was watching me and threatening to rape and kill me. My mom, to this day, thinks it's a funny story to tell. My parents own a business on the same property as their house, but separate from their house. Like, one building is obviously the shop, and the other is clearly a private residence with a fence, gate, etc. I was 13, home alone, and coming out of the basement with laundry. Walk into the dining room to start folding, and there's a man standing there looking around. I yell at him about what the hell he thinks he's doing, what the hell does he want, get out of my goddamn house, what have you. Mind you, my parents' dining room is far back in the house, you have to walk through the whole rest of the lower level of the house to get there, and this fucker didn't once stop and be like, "Oh, I shouldn't be here." Nope. Walked right in like he owned the place. He says he's a customer here to pick up an order. I yell at him that the shop closed hours ago, get the fuck out of my house, start screaming at him like a banshee on roids and basically shove him out by force of volume alone. He skedaddled to his car and left, and I told my parents what happened when they came home. Motherfucker seriously called the next day and tried to bitch at my dad about my nasty attitude and my awful language. My dad cut him off and said he was lucky I didn't just stab him. He's now banned from the premises, and his order will be shipped to him after payment is received. For once, my dad took my side, and that cleared any doubt in my mind that I might have overreacted, lol. I was paranoid for months after that. It was insane. My roommates were out of town and my dog started growling in the middle of the night at something at the end of a dark hallway. She never behaved like that, so I was genuinely freaked out. Then I started hearing noises coming from my kitchen on the other side of the house. I was fully convinced someone was in there, so like any idiot in a movie I got a flashlight and a weapon and went to investigate. As soon as the flashlight hit the kitchen area, something freaked out and knocked a bunch of shit over. I was terrified, and then my flashlight hit the culprit. A huge fucking raccoon had snuck through the doggy door and was eating my dog's food in the kitchen. We made eye contact and it immediately fled outside.
Sorrowful happiness that I just can't seem to get.